Oh, hey everyone, hopefully you guys are all doing well. It's Adrian Hunter from over here at Pipe Dream Hookah, and today I'm here to bring you the Kaloud Lotus Plus review as promised. But a few notes before we dive into this review that I think you guys should probably know about before we start. The first one is going to be, I'm not going to be talking a whole lot about dimensions and the technical aspects of this Kaloud Lotus Plus for various reasons, mainly because I have a new series coming up. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I will say it's going to be geared towards beginner smokers, kind of people who are just getting into the hobby. And there are some things I wanted to do with heat management devices, including breaking down this specific heat management device in detail. So this review is going to be more for people who already know what the Lotus is and how heat management devices work. Now, if you're not familiar and you are interested, I will link in the description a review by another very competent reviewer that actually goes over the original Kaloud Lotus. It's going to be on the matte version. We're not going to be talking too much about the shiny version for reasons I won't get into right now. But yeah, that said, we're going to be mostly talking about the updates on the Kaloud Lotus Plus from the original matte Kaloud Lotus, because I think that the big thing that people are worried about are like 4 of the key updates that they actually made to the Kaloud Lotus Plus. So we're going to be keeping our focus mostly in that area. So that said, if you're all geared up and you know what heat management devices are all about, then we're probably ready to go ahead and move on to talking about the key differences from the original Kaloud Lotus matte to the Kaloud Lotus Plus. If you're not well versed, again, there is a video in the description for you to check out, and I'd highly recommend giving it a look if you don't know what's going on with these things just yet. Now let's go ahead and start with the main changes that were made from the original Kaloud Lotus to the Kaloud Lotus Plus, and what I'd really like to start with is capacity. One of the biggest complaints from the original Kaloud Lotus that a lot of people had were it can't comfortably fit 3 cubes in any way. If you wanted to put 3 cubes in the original Kaloud Lotus, you had to do this really janky thing where you put 2 cubes in the Lotus and then you had the 3rd cube kind of hanging out at an angle, and you couldn't put the lid on at all, which caused a myriad of problems that people had to deal with. Now me personally, I don't know that you need to get 3 cubes in your Lotus to get it up to the proper temperature to burn most shisha tobaccos, but there are people who like to smoke warmer. So what Kaloud Lotus has done is, I'm going to put some B-roll over here so you guys can see what's going on, because I don't think it's going to translate very well if I show you with my hands these devices. But there's going to be a noticeable size difference between the Kaloud Lotus and the Kaloud Lotus Plus, and it might not be insanely obvious as to how much space they've added, but I can guarantee you they've added enough space to be able to fit 3 25mm cubes inside of the Kaloud Lotus Plus. Now there has been some debate about whether or not you can actually fit 3 cubes in the Kaloud Lotus Plus, depending on what cube you're using and all of that. There are some 26mm cubes out on the market as well, so that's something to keep in mind. But if you are someone who really wants to fit 3 cubes in the Kaloud Lotus, then the Plus is going to be the way to go, because as I was saying, the original Kaloud Lotus, there was no way to get 3 cubes to fit in there comfortably, at least not at the beginning of the session. You'd have to wait about 25-30 minutes for the cubes to burn down enough for you to be able to fit the full 3 cubes in the original Kaloud Lotus. Now the next change that they made from the original Lotus to the Lotus Plus were these vents at the bottom of the devices. The vents on the original Kaloud Lotus were very functional. I don't think that there was anything wrong with them, but Kaloud did take the initiative to go ahead and widen those vents a little bit to allow a little bit more airflow and possibly a little more heat into your bowl from the heat management device itself. Now I'm not going to get too deep into this topic, as I'm not sure how much it actually matters if they did open the vents up, but this is clearly something that they were testing in R&D for a good amount of time, and something that a lot of people seem to actually care a little bit about. So that is another change you can expect for the Kaloud Lotus Plus. Now, if you actually go inside of these devices, you're going to notice something about the original that was kind of a pain in the ass for people who had the OG matte Kaloud Lotus, and that's at the bottom of the device is actually flat, and that's going to create an issue with your cubes. So if you put the hot cubes into the Lotus and it's not preheated, you shouldn't preheat the Lotus. Kaloud specifically asks that you don't do that. It will melt. Just do not do that. I promise it's not something you want to deal with. These are pretty expensive devices. But yeah, when you put your cubes or flats or whatever coal you're using to heat up this heat management device, they'll black out on the bottom, and that's because there's no airflow, because it is flat. And this is something that Kaloud saw, they listened to the community, and they decided, hey, maybe we should raise a portion of the inside of the Lotus and make it so the coals don't black out so easily. And that's exactly what they've done. Inside of the Kaloud Lotus, they have included 3 sets of 3 raised semicircles inside of it. Now, This does work. You do get the coals up off of the bottom of the Lotus, and it does help to prevent them from blacking out. However, I'm just going to make a really quick note here on the raised portions at the bottom of this Lotus. It gets a little bit difficult if you want to start using something like a quarter circle set of cubes. So the 4 quarter circle cubes aren't going to really sit in there very well because the raised portions are broken up so much that they're going to kind of not sit in there very evenly, and it's just going to be a bit of a mess. When you put 4 quarter circle coals into the regular matte Cloud Lotus, the original one, they fit in there really nicely. You do deal with the blacking out problem, but at least they fit in there and there's really nothing going on with the coals kind of having trouble setting in there correctly. So that's something to keep in mind. What I really would have liked to see Kaloud Lotus do with this device is just make them full circles in there. If they just use full circles in there to raise it up, you wouldn't have a problem with the quarter circle coals, and that would be a little bit better, I think. But that's pretty fringe because not everyone actually uses quarter circle coals. So take that for what it's worth. It's a little bit of a downside in my opinion, but I would imagine that most people don't share that opinion with me. Now those are going to be the main changes from the original matte Lotus to the Kaloud Lotus Plus, but I do want to quickly direct your attention to the lids of these devices. The first thing you'll notice is that there is a decent size change from the Kaloud Lotus original matte version to the Kaloud Lotus Plus, and that's because, like I said earlier, they did increase the capacity to be able to hold 3 25mm cubes. Now, if you look at the top of the lid, they did do some minor aesthetic changes. There was one functional change that they did, which was it looks like they opened up the vents on the top by just a little bit. And to be honest, I would imagine this has more to do with the fact that they increased the size of the lid itself than it is something that they actively did to change the amount of airflow you're getting from the top of the Lotus, because honestly, I haven't noticed these vents functioning very much anyway. I don't notice a big heat difference when I have the vents closed or open, so that's something you probably want to keep in mind. But yeah, if you look at the top of these lids, you're going to notice that they did change the graphics around a little bit, which is kind of nice. The old one had this kind of annoying looking "don't touch, it's really hot" sign on it, and I think we understand that the Lotus is going to be pretty hot. And then it had this weird symbol, and it does not look like Cloud's logo, so they've kind of done away with that, and they just put that one nice Kaloud Lotus symbol right in the middle of the heat management device, which is just awesome. I'm super glad that they did that because it does look a little bit better. It's not going to change functionality, obviously, but I think we all like our heat management devices to look nice. And yeah, that's just going to about wrap up the main differences between the original matte Lotus and the Kaloud Lotus. Now, we know about all of the differences, but what really matters is functionality. Is it going to work? And I guess I'll just go ahead and post a picture of me actually smoking the Kaloud Lotus. I opted not to smoke it for this video just because I kind of wanted to play with the Lotus in my hand, and I only own one Plus and one of the original Lotus, so I've got a bowl going right now, and if any of you nerds are interested in what I'm smoking, I got kind of a garbage can mix of different Tangiers flavors. This particular one's going to be some pink grapefruit, some of the Foreplay on the peach, and a little bit of cane mint. Got it in the Alien Bowl, dense packed, obviously, like you do with Tangiers, with the Provost and 2 flats inside of the Provost. And it is good. But yeah, if I've done my job, you can see me smoking it right there. So obviously, the clouds are going to be outstanding as long as you pack the bowl correctly, and that's not something we're really going to get into in this video either, because like I said, I've got a new series coming out. We're going to touch on that quite a bit. But I will also try to leave a video in the description to go over how you pack a bowl with the Lotus as well. I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to link for that, but I know of a few reviewers who do a nice video on that, so I'll make sure to link something for you guys in case you were curious as to how you want to pack your bowl with a Lotus as opposed to with foil. And then beyond the clouds that I was obviously producing in that little video, the flavor is going to be really good. Just one thing I want to touch on with the Lotus tends to change the flavor profile from tobacco to tobacco because of the different way that it introduces heat to your bowl, so that's something to keep in mind. And I have noticed that flavor potency tends to go down just a little bit when you're using the Lotus, so definitely keep that in mind as well. But you do get these fat clouds. The flavor is still always great, and your session's going to go very well. So as you can imagine, I would actually recommend picking this product up provided you meet a certain set of criteria, and I'm going to go over those right now. The first one is, do you already have an original matte Kaloud Lotus that's in fairly decent condition? Because we did just go over the fact that it smokes very well, and it's a very good heat management device. Unfortunately, I haven't noticed any real differences from the original Kaloud Lotus to the Kaloud Lotus Plus as far as functionality goes. Now, it does seem to be built with a few more details in mind, and you don't have to deal with the coals blacking out as much. So those are definitely big pluses, but I'm not sure if they're big enough pluses to warrant spending another $50 on the Kaloud Lotus Plus if you already have the original Kaloud Lotus. So unless you're a collector of heat management devices, and some of us are, you know, if you're someone who wants to pick up the Phoenix, the Stratus, you've got a Provost, you've got an Ottoman Ignis, and you've got the original Kaloud Lotus, and you're just trying to keep your collection going of different heat management devices, still probably pick this up because it is aesthetically different enough where it is going to be a different heat management device in your collection. And it does have some functionality differences that are worth noting, but I'm not sure that it's going to be worth the pickup if you already have a matte Kaloud Lotus. Now I will say that the Lotus isn't going to last forever, and eventually your matte Kaloud Lotus is going to get pretty grungy, so when you upgrade, I would highly recommend going to the Kaloud Lotus Plus. However, if you are a first-time heat management device buyer, you're in the market to get your very first HMD, I would highly recommend picking up the Kaloud Lotus as your first HMD. The Kaloud Lotus was the first HMD to ever really hit the American market, unless you're going to count foil screens as HMDs, and I know we don't. But yeah, the Kaloud Lotus pretty much innovated the whole heat management device thing. They were actually the first heat management device in the market, like I was just saying. This is an absolutely outstanding heat management device, and I would recommend it. As a matter of fact, before I wrap this video up for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and give it a rating on the 7 scale, like I've tended to do in my past few videos. And I'm just going to cut right to the chase and say that this gets a 7 out of 7. It's a perfect score. I can't think of anything more that I would want out of a heat management device that you do not use with foil. Now keep in mind, I've said this in previous reviews, I am not a big fan of using heat management devices like the Kaloud Lotus, but I'm trying to be as objective as possible here. And I think that if you're someone who wants to use a heat management device, or if you're someone who thinks they might want one for whatever reason, whether you're smoking in a big group of friends or you don't want to deal with the mess, this is going to be great for you, and I can't really think of any serious downsides. The $50 price point is right where it should be. You're definitely going to be getting your money's worth with this heat management device. And if you are someone who likes to smoke hotter, like I said, you can fit the 3 cubes, which is something that's been a bit of a controversy lately on a lot of these social media groups that revolve around hookah culture. People have been arguing it does fit 3 cubes, it doesn't fit 3 cubes. It fits 3 cubes. You're going to have some amount of variance, obviously. Maybe if you have like 26mm cubes, you might need to burn them down a little bit more, but they seem to have nailed the sizing difference. Now, if I've convinced you and you think this is something you might be interested in buying, I would highly recommend you go over to Star Hookah. They are obviously my sponsor, and they are awesome people over there. Alex and Mary will always take good care of you guys. Beyond their good shipping times and their great customer service, they have a vast array of different hookah products for you guys to choose from. So I would definitely recommend taking a trip over there to make your next hookah purchase. And if you don't want to pay full price over on Star Hookah, I can actually hook you up. You can use my promo code, that's PIPED15, PIPE15, PIPED15, and it'll get you 15% off your entire Star Hookah order, excluding what's already on sale. But yeah, you guys, that's gonna wrap this video up. If you were left wanting more out of this review, like more of the technical stuff, I will be getting into that, and I am gonna go ahead and get the measurements on these for you, like the weight and dimensions, just in case you're curious, and I will leave them down in the description below when I get access to them. It's probably gonna be a day or two because I have a pretty full plate with a few videos that are coming up, but I wanted to get this out as soon as possible. And really quick before I let you go, I just wanted to remind you guys that I've got that new series out. It's called The Pipeline, kind of going over different things that happen within the hookah industry and the hookah community throughout the week, as well as any reviews that you may have missed that were dropped on YouTube by all of the awesome hookah reviewers that are in our community. And that drops every Friday night at around 10 p.m. I try to keep it as late as possible so I can get all of the stuff that was dropped throughout the week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It is still in beta. I have no clue exactly how I want to cut the show yet, so I'm still playing with stuff. So I'm also open to any suggestions from you guys if you want to see me do anything differently. But that's just going to about wrap this video up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, happy smoking.